Hi, my name's Spud and today we are following around some members of the press gallery to find out what a day at Parliament is like for political journalists. I'm here with President of the Press Gallery, Kieran Rooney. Now Kieran, tell us a bit about yourself and how long you've been a part of the press gallery for.
I have been with the press gallery since about August 2019, which feels like a long time now. A lot of my day job involves what we're doing here today, which is covering sitting days, covering the activities of the Premier and the opposition and the government policies of the day. I love it.
You just said you love it. What about it do you love? What keeps you coming back and drew you to state politics and political reporting?
I've always been like a public policy facing person, so I really like transport, health, even a little bit of crime. The beauty of state politics is that it's really at the coalface of everything that you encounter every day as a citizen, so it's really good to sort of, have a frontline view of how services are delivered.
Now we mentioned you're the President of the Press Gallery. Do you mind maybe just touching on some of that role and what the responsibilities are?
My job as the President is basically to be the interface with the Parliament. If something's not working for the press gallery, whether we can't have access to something or the way the services in the Parliament aren't working, it's my job to be the advocate for the press gallery, and talk about that and what we can improve. Similarly, if there's anything that the Parliament or even the Premier's office might want to convey to the press gallery, upcoming events, state funerals, that sort of thing, it's my job to sort of be sort of the conduit and tell them what's happening there.
We're here just before a press conference with the Premier. Do you mind sort of touching on the difference between this sort of set up, pre-organised press conference versus doors?
Yeah, absolutely. So earlier we were outdoors. That's sort of a more impromptu thing. You can grab anyone. Anyone can come up and stand in front of the cameras and have their spiel for the day. This is a more traditional press conference. We have one of these a day from the state government. When it's a sitting day, often it's with the Premier. It's the first sitting day since a long winter break, so the Premier is very keen to set the agenda with some of the policies that they've been working on over the break and that they want to sort of, dictate the second half of the year to. So we're here, she's going to be with the Attorney General making some announcements.
Now, Kieran, we've just seen the press conference between the Premier and the Attorney General wrap up. Now, as a journalist, what sort of things are you focusing on during moments like that in order to file stories and stuff like that?
It's a bit tricky because you're obviously answering the announcement of the day, so we get a little media release that tells us what the announcement is, and so one of the key jobs is you've got to read that in about 30 seconds flat. Find any holes or questions that you need answered and quickly ask the Premier, anything that's not in the release, essentially.
I'm here now with Heidi Murphy, another member of the press gallery. And now, Heidi, do you mind giving us a bit of your background and how you came to be in state politics reporting?
Well, I used to work here for 3AW for a very long time, working in radio. Now I'm across in television. I think I've been here since on and off since about 2003, 2004, back in the Brax era. So I've been through a few premiers, a few different parliaments over the years, quite a few different ministries, and now I'm doing a whole different thing. I've been television for a couple of years and back up here as state politics reporter for about 12 months.
How difficult is it coming into a day not knowing really what the story is going to be, and what's that process for you over the course of the day, collating all that's happened and before forming your story?
Well, it'll be a process through the day. I'll have a chat with the news director. I've missed because there's things I will think are a great story, but if we don't have pictures to show it, it doesn't really work on television. It used to be the great thing about radio is you could tell 15 different stories in the day because there's 15 different bulletins. We've got one story that'll go to air tonight in the 6 o'clock news. I've got a minute 30, usually at most, to tell. So we'll have conversations. I'll check what reports have been tabled. I'll see what bubbles to the top, what we can tell in the most sort of entertaining or interesting or informative way. Sometimes, like yesterday, there was big bail reforms announced. That ended up being the lead story on our news, done by another journalist because I had some other things to get across. So that changed during the course of the entire day. It's challenging to deliver a product at the end when you've started the day not knowing what that is.
Now, Kieran, behind us we've got a bit of a protest going on, as there often is on the steps of Parliament. How important are events like these in shaping your role as a journalist and what you write about over the course of a day?
Yeah, you're totally right. We love a protest in Victoria, and this is probably one of the most well-known spots for a protest. They're particularly common during sitting days because obviously you've got captive audience of politicians in there, and there's lots of, as you might hear as part of this protest, there's lots of honking of horns, there's speeches being made. Obviously, it makes a challenge getting in and out of the parliamentary precinct, which is always fun, but it also gives you an opportunity as a journalist to meet new people. Sometimes you make sources here, or at least you get to talk to people and get their perspective on a lot of important issues.
I'm here with Kieran, and we're both here with MP Georgie Purcell. And Kieran, what is it like having such close relationships with MPs and having access to them in ways that the public wouldn't? And how does that influence and help you do your job as a political reporter?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. Obviously, as a state political journalist, your relationship with MPs is kind of like one of the biggest tools in your toolkit. You have a duty to report on them fairly and call them out when they've done something wrong, but they're also people that you interact with every day.
What was it like discovering what it's like dealing with, members of the press constantly coming to you for questions and scrutinising what you're doing?
Yeah, I really consider my relationships with journalists as a critical part of my job, and unlike many other politicians, I spend a lot of time talking to them, and we benefit each other. It's a mutually beneficial relationship, and I, of course, expect them to hold me to account and at times criticise things that I've done or ways that I've voted, but they're also a really important mechanism for me to share and amplify my stories and the work that I'm doing, and each and every day, we're pitching stories to them, saying the things that I'm doing in Parliament and helping share that message with the community. As a lone MP for my party, I don't have other colleagues in here who are carrying the load of the work, so getting that message out there in the media is critically important to us.
Yeah, so we're here in the actual press gallery, part of the press gallery, the physical seats and boxes where over the years, journalists have sat and watched legislation be debated, and question time is obviously the big event that people come and sit here for. One of my favourite things, I think a favourite thing for a lot of people in the Parliament is all the graffiti from the journalists here over the years. So we've got decades worth of journalists who have carved their name into the desks here.
When you come and sit and watch Question Time and see all those names of historic figures who've come before you, does that really just dawn on you the significance of the role that you now have?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely humbling. It's also I guess it's inspiring in a way because it makes you think when you see some of the big names in the industry doing their own little piece of graffiti, it makes you think that I'm no different to them. They were here at one point in their life and they went on and did amazing things. It's just as the journalists here go on and do amazing things every day. So it definitely makes you feel like you're part of this kind of story of Parliament, which I think is something that everyone who works here feels like you're kind of part of this story that's been going for 200 years. It's a really, really important experience. It's also fun reading some of the comments in there. There's one inscription that says "Down with Dixers," which is an end to the practice of MPs asking softball questions of each other. So some of those things make you go, okay, things haven't changed that much at all. It's good to see that some of the old tropes still remain the same.
We're back here with Heidi and Kieran just before question time. Now, Heidi, just how important is this moment coming up for you all day as a political reporter?
Well, I hope for some colour and movement. I've actually left some room at the top of today's story for hopefully a bit of argy-bargy around childcare, actually, given it's the theme of the week. It's funny, you don't often get big stories out of Question Time, but it's when everybody's in there and they're in there to perform. It's their theatrical moment, I feel. It's the moment you'll yell things across the chamber and there'll be perhaps not great for democracy, but good for the theatre, for television. So for my purposes, I'm watching for some moments that I can just grab little bits of and pop into the story.
And after Question Time, rest of the day filing wise, getting stories done, what does that look like for you?
I go into a mad rush to file. I'm one of those people who file probably a bit too late, my editors would tell me. But yeah, I sit in front of a computer and I try and smash out all the quotes, all the grabs I've got from today, all the context, and just try and get it all away before 5 or 6 o'clock if I can.
Cobbling all the pieces from the day together for a minute and a half broadcast, what's that like, the last little dash?
Well, hopefully, as I say, there's something that comes out of Question Time today that I can feed in there. Otherwise, the story's three-quarters written. I'll head back to the office probably by about 2:30, 2:45. My editors, if they're listening, I'll have it to you by 4. Sometimes you want to get it in as early as you can. can, because it's not just me. I need it to get it subbed. Then an editor needs to put it all together. That takes time, so we can't run right up close to 6 o'clock. So I need to get it sorted in the next hour or two, put the voice down, wait to see what happens. Sometimes there's a live cross element, so I'm back up here doing some live element in the news. We make that decision in the next hour or so as well.
Thank you for showing us a little insight into what it's like as a political reporter here for A Day in Parliament.